only you. You're the you're sister or this is sister. Why does it say self-style forum? That's your page.
Yeah.
Like that.
Does it keep lagging?
You said you know why?
I don't know why.
It says Carla, but it doesn't.
It won't. For some reason, it won't let me speak.
Got it. All right.
There we go.
That
All
was
right.
almost anticlimactic.
Very anticlimactic, but we are here. We were having technical difficulties. Things are a little bit different for us because we've been doing some rearranging up in here, but good to be in the virtual live streaming
Space.
world right
Yes.
now. So what's going on, everybody?
Yes, we're so happy to be on after 50 million years of us being away. And honestly, it's life.
Yeah. Life, travel, Fridays are kind of sometimes can be hectic for us. Where were we last? Oh, we were out the country last Friday, right?
No, we were here,
We were here last Friday, but
We
what
were
happened
here.
last Friday?
out the country,
No. What happened? Why weren't we on last Friday?
because you were out of the state.
Where'd I go last Friday?
Really, we're having this conversation live. I don't want people to be knowing where you were. Just know that you weren't here.
Oh yeah,
Let's
that's
just say
right.
that.
That's
Okay.
right.
All
That's
right. What's
All right. Now I
happening?
remember where I was. I just didn't
I was
remember.
like, you want me to really say all that on here? Everybody know your whereabouts. But anyway, we're so glad to be back on. So glad to be back on. Let me tell you something about
Let me tell you something.
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about this hair. For the gentlemen that are in the chat that are watching us, if you're a gentleman and you have hair and you like to do the waves thing where your hair is tied down every night, you do the brush thing and all the things, let me tell you, I salute you, because that joint is no joke. And I hate the fact that it leaves a line on your head.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I give much respect to men, boys who are enjoying making their hair lay down, because that joint is no joke.
Yeah, I remember getting them waves, getting them 360s.
Those
was
waves
no
are
joke.
no joke.
And you got to tie that do-rag down, tie it down real tight. And you have the line in your hair. I've been brushing my hair so hard, man. It's like all day,
because
like
you're
this.
brushing on the wrong side, right? Like
Yeah.
you're the rough side of the brush.
And you gotta brush the way you want the waves to go. So I remember Nas had his waves like going like slanted. So I used to brush like this, like train my hair to go like this to get the waves. So man, those were those days. I don't miss them. I like having my little bald head, shave it, my razors, and I'm good to go.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Hey, Othenio, good to see you. He's like, bless up, family. Your marks are on, and we can hear you both. Perfect. Awesome sauce. What's up, Gabrielle? Oh my gosh, it's been forever since we've seen you in the chat. Happy Sabbath.
Was good, fam.
Our week. That's a good question. How was our week? How was your week?
It was a relatively good week.
Okay.
I got to do some things that I normally don't get to do this week.
Right.
So that was good. Getting back inside, going to the gym.
Getting pumped.
Making sure I'm taking care of my body and kind of just chilled this week.
Okay.
Which was good, which was a very rare thing for me to do sometimes.
And I'm sure welcoming, you welcomed it.
I welcomed it.
My week, sure. My week was a busy week, but it was a productive week. It's one of those productive weeks of just kind of just checking those boxes off, completing tasks. So always feels good when I'm able to check those boxes off. And so, yeah, I had a productive week for the most part. I think that after going on vacation, it is so hard to be settled, or not to be, it's so hard to kind of recalibrate your brain back into the things that you usually do. And so after coming back from vacation again, we were just like, what do we do with our lives? Like, what do you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of hard to get back into it. But we were very happy for the reprieve. This was actually it was just Jamie and I on this trip. And so that felt really, 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 really good. We also went with other couples, which also felt really, really really good.
Yeah.
And so we're super excited to be back. But at the same time, I think someone shared in our group chat like the different stages of when you are on vacation, right? You go through like a depress is almost like depression, like you're depressed because you're no longer on the trip. And then after the depression phase, I think you go through I'm mixing it all up, but you go through like a jealousy phase where you're just like you see your friends traveling or other people traveling, you become jealous because you're not traveling. And it's just kind of like these different phases that you go through when you go on vacation. And so I don't know what part of the phase I'm at. I just know that I'm at a phase where it's just like oh yeah, this was a phase where you think about your life, you rethink all your life's choices, and you think like, okay, what can I do to make sure that this is a norm? Or you say, why can't I just travel for life? Like, why can't traveling be something that I do all the time?
I think it's what your intention. I think you just have to be intentional about it, right? So
Yeah.
saving up and discipline. That's the word.
Yeah. Lots of
Intentional
discipline.
and discipline to
Uh-huh.
put aside the money for your trips.
Yeah.
I don't have that discipline because
No, you don't. Jamie's trips. Can I share?
Yeah.
Jamie's trips is to the store. He
That's
doesn't no, it's not even to the store. He's not walking anywhere. It's him sitting in front of the computer and just click, click, click.
Yep. That's my vice.
So everybody has their thing, right? So
Everybody has their
and
thing.
so Jamie's is shopping.
What's yours?
I don't think I have one.
So why you don't plan more trips?
It's true. Because you know why? Okay. So let's talk about this for a little bit. It's a little bit random, but let's talk about this a little bit.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. So I think I would want to try. So one thing about traveling is this, like when you do it, you want to keep doing it, right? It's almost like a bug where not a bug, but it's almost like you get like that bug of wanting to just keep going, keep traveling, right? Keep exploring the world. And so that would probably be something that I would love to spend my money on, spend most of the money on. Yeah, that would probably be where I love clothes too. I love shopping, but I think shopping and going on vacation work hand in hand because you have to look cute on those trips, and so shopping comes into play, right? You see that, right? You see how that came into play.
No.
But traveling for me was a bit, traveling for me was a bit shaky in terms of I didn't want to travel a lot, especially without the girls.
Okay.
And so now I'm in a place where I'm just like, yeah, let's do it. I think I'm more open to wanting to let that be the thing that I put my money to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just intentional, right? It's just looking at how much it costs to go wherever you want to go and having the discipline to put aside that money. And you can still have money to shop as well. We just aren't. So it's like also too, I think all the problem that I think we have that maybe some other couples have too is not having the money immediately to be able to book a trip. So you'd have to put it on a credit card and then it's the same thing. You just put on a credit card, just be disciplined about making the payments to pay it off by time the trip comes. Because those are like the best ones, right? When you book them early, not wait to the last minute.
Exactly.
So we should be already booking our next vacation.
Right. Yep. And then you kind of pay into it, or you can just be like some people who they just
some people got it like that.
They just spend it because it's readily there. But I like saving the money up, like what we did, like save the money up and then just pay for it that way, opposed to paying it back. I don't know. My brain always says I don't like owing people. I don't like owing anything. So I prefer to save and then spend, opposed to spend and then pay back or save in that way. So,
yeah, but it's that challenge because you're going to spend more booking the trip later than you would booking it in advance.
That's true, but I feel like in the saving piece that you just kind of allot a nice range of a nice amount to be able to save towards. So like if you think about going to Africa costs $10,000, then we're gonna save. Oh, excuse me. And so $10,000 with the prices right now, right? If the prices increase, you will then say, let's say $15,000, right? Like you give yourself that window to kind of save enough so that you won't be owing back, even if it goes over a little bit. Like you won't be owing back that great amount. I don't know. I just don't like that stuff. But anyway, not sure how we got on that topic, but we hope that you guys had a great week. Thank God that we are able to see another week. Um, there is something very important coming up next week that some of us are anticipating. Some of us are anxiously awaiting the results of that, of the election that we know that is happening. I feel like it's one of the most important elections that we've experienced. And so I hope that everyone that's watching and everyone that will watch this on the replay, that all of you are making your voice heard and your vote count. Because honestly, I don't think we have time to kind of play the role of kind of hanging back and just kind of not saying I don't want to vote because it doesn't matter. My vote doesn't matter. It does, honestly, especially where honestly we don't even know how we got here. I don't know how we got here. How we could be a halt between these two um, um, individuals, especially um, Donald Trump, right? And so I think that even when we were on vacation in another country, essentially, as soon as we got into the taxi, the guy was basically saying, um, he said, "Who are you guys voting for? Please tell me you're voting for Kamala." And so um, basically, he was just like saying, we hope that you guys do not allow this man to go back in. Like, and so we asked the question, like, what are your thoughts about, how it is that how you view Americans essentially, or the state that we are in. And I remember him saying, he was like, he didn't say it was a joke, but he was just like, he was like, we are in disbelief that something like this could be happening.
Yeah, that was in the Bahamas, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. I think it's just you just want to kind of like go to sleep and wake me up in 2028. I hope everybody voted already, because I know Tuesday is going to be crazy. But if you didn't, you get your chance on Tuesday. Most people should have the day off, and I'm pretty much sure that our viewers, our people that are tuned in right now, they're not anti-voters. They believe in voting.
I pray so.
I know some Seventh-day Adventists, or matter of fact, some Christians still hold to the notion that we shouldn't vote. God is in charge, and whatever happens, happens. Which you are entitled to your belief, whatever it may be. But I believe that if you are a tax-paying citizen, you should exercise the right of who you want to govern you. And I think voting is I vote because people died, first of all, for me to get this opportunity to vote. And I want to say in who governs me. So I hope we turn out to vote. I hope don't look at the polls. Don't worry about the polls. Don't say that your vote doesn't matter. I don't need to vote. No, your voice does matter in everything you say. So wake up early on Tuesday, stand on that line. For those of you in the hot sun down in the South, hopefully there will be no rain. Hopefully the weather will be good. Hopefully the weather will be good everywhere. and we'll just make sure that we put our votes in the ballot box and not worry about, you know, the narrative about the elections are rigged and all this other stuff and these conspiracy theories. And let's go out there and show America that we want to make our voices heard.
Yeah, that joint is important. And I think it's even more important than ever before. And it's so interesting. I feel like our kids, Caitlin and Amber, I feel like they have so much more awareness. I remember their age. I don't even think I remember any real talk about um um presidential debates or presidents, right? It just felt like it was just between two men. And essentially nothing really riled people up in this way, right? It just feels, and maybe because there's social media and there's so many different um, media influences that kind of influence the fact that we're almost being bombarded. We're getting text messages from um, uh, different places telling us to vote for them and all those things. But I still feel our kids are so much more aware of what is happening in our country, so much aware of what's happening in this election, and almost like questioning, like, this doesn't make sense, right? Like, it's just crazy, the country that our kids, the days that we're in, that our kids are growing up into. I feel like maybe if we were more aware of when Reagan went into office with Reaganomics and how that kind of worked to the detriment of Black people and all those kinds of things. I should say not Black people. Black people's politically correct.
Yeah, African American,
African Americans, maybe we will be riled up a little bit more, but it just feels as though these moments are just so heightened.
Yeah, I think they're heightened too because we have so much access to the news now.
Yeah.
So it's so much like and you're bombarded with it every day. And then there's something that's called like election fatigue, where it's just like, okay, enough is enough. Like every minute on your feed, on the news, we just have so many outlets bombarding us. Like, you know, when we grew up, I only had channel 2, 5,
7,
9, and 11, right? And then if you had cable, then you had like CNN and those other things. But now the social media, it's just every day, every day, every day. So it's more heightened. But I'm not really mad at it for the simple fact that you have to. I think you just need to know how to filter the information that you're getting. Oh yeah, Donnie Swagger's sermon is going to be bring more evangelicals to demonize the Black church as immoral on issues of abortion, immigration, and LGBTQIA. Yeah, but did you hear Dr. Frederick Haynes' response to Donnie Swaggart? It is viral, and he put Donnie Swaggart in his place.
Mercy.
And saying that the Black church is a reaction to the white church.
Mercy.
That these topics that we're talking about in the Black church is because of the white church. But nevertheless, this whole idea about separation of church and state is a farce. The church is all up in, I say the white evangelical church and the Black church is all up inside of this election because it's important. It's our lives that are on the line, democracy, all of those things. So I'm for it. I believe that, we got to use our power of our platform to raise our voice and to speak out against sin and against evil.
Yeah, so that's very interesting that you said the separation of church and state. And I don't even know this is a platform, or I don't even know if I should be raising this this particular point, the separation of church and state, because I really don't have much I would say knowledge about like the history behind it, why it was created, why that separation was created, and it's very foggy for me because I know that it's something with the it's almost like the church is viewed as a legally, isn't it, like a
it's a religious institution.
Okay, I just thought it's religious, but isn't there something based on See, again, I'm not very knowledgeable about that. And I probably should not be bringing it up, but I'm just interested to know, curious to know like why it has been that separation of, I know like governing wise, like there is a separation between church and state. Um, but in terms of like the church, I feel like the Black church being very modest, and maybe again, this is very, could be very ignorant, and please forgive me for being very ignorant, but I just feel growing up in the Black church, that's what I'm most familiar with, is that we've just been always tiptoeing around voting and um, using our power to vote, and using our power as a body of people coming together week after week to empower and to educate our people on how to do that. Because I feel like when we think about like the marches and all the things that were happening back in the days, I feel like the church was at the forefront of that. And then now it feels like Black churches are silent in terms of really moving this thing forward, versus like when I remember we went to a church that was not Black, how they were very forward in presenting a candidate, and how they didn't necessarily, it was very overt. It wasn't like subtle. It was subtle, but it wasn't subtle, where they would definitely put on, everything was read inside of the sanctuary. They gave a list of things that were, um, um, definitely knew that it was not for blue, it was for Republicans. And so they were very overtly expressing like, we're not telling you who to vote for, but these are the things that align with our church, and this is who we are telling you almost to vote for. So again, I don't know any of that. So we'll be interested to kind of hear your take as well as everyone else's.
Well, I think well, I'll say that you grew up in a colonized Caribbean church.
Okay, break that down a little bit
So,
more.
like, I don't know if it's all Black churches. I know the churches we grew up in were Caribbean, and they had that Western Christian Adventist philosophy that we grew up in. You know, that was kind of immune. You know, they were separated from the Black struggle, separated from the protests and the marches. So, you know, our only focus, at least in the church that I grew up in, was just about the quote unquote gospel, right? It was just in the Adventist church. If you're not Adventist, you're watching this, that 2300 day prophecy, Bible prophecy, all of that kind of stuff. So being engaged in civil matters or hearings, you know, social justice or anything preached from the pulpit, the pastors we had, they never touched on that stuff. So I think that's what it was.
Very good point.
Like, I think maybe if we went to a church in the South, or if we were like in a primarily American church, we would have probably heard more about voting. Probably heard more about HBCUs. We would have probably heard a lot more about that stuff. So I think it's just a cultural thing with the churches that we grew up in that didn't really, you know, think about voting, which is interesting, because I wonder if, like, say, like, if a church in Guyana or a church in Jamaica or a church in whatever country that's going through maybe like a cycle of injustice or elections, I wonder if the Caribbean churches in those countries are kind of like, you know, like how the Black church in America is, like, you know, talking to them about very vocal. That's the word, very vocal about issues and their faith and how to exercise their faith at the ballot box. But I know for me, for a fact, the church that I grew up in, they really, really stood on that. So they really stood on that separation of church and state. And then they also, I believe, indirectly, I felt like it was communicated to not get involved in those Black American problems or those Black American things. You know, work hard, keep your head down, and just wait for Jesus to come.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Because there's a disconnect there between the two different kinds of the Black American churches versus the Black Caribbean churches. to your point, and also to Anderson's point, basically said that sometimes some Caribbean have a way, people that are from the Caribbean have a way of making it feel as though they are in America, but they're not of America. So it's almost like this disconnected, we're here for the opportunity, but we're not here for anything more than that. So getting involved in anything like voting and stuff like that, or encouraging in an overt way, is not necessarily something that they stand on, for sure. And again, I told you, this is not my field. This is not my field, but this is just something that I'm not very well versed in. But I thank you for Saba, that also contributed and said that the separation of church and state, why it was established to protect religious liberty and to prevent the government from becoming involved in religious matters. So I understand that breakdown, and also J.A. O'Rourke basically also explained why that is as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And too, Anderson is making some great points as well. Like, I think because the boomer generation only came here to use the country's resources with the plan of retirement going back home, which also aligns with their religious goals. Heaven is my home. Therefore, they don't care to get too involved in the things of this world, which often include politics. And then
That's
to this
good.
point as well, the Adventist socio-politically unaware and uninvolved is only 100 years old. Prior to
Wow.
1960, Adventists were very vocal on social and political issues, and which is very true
Wow.
because Ellen White wrote about prohibition. Ellen White wrote about few things that we ought to vote for and vote against. So then people try to say, Ellen White said didn't vote, but she has writings where she talks about prohibition and various things like that. But to the point that you're making and we're all making here in the comments, I think we have a new crop of Seventh-day Adventists, a new generation of Seventh-day Adventists, and a new generation of pastors that are in the pulpits that are being very vocal about freedom, democracy, and the the mandate as believers to also to be good citizens. And being a good citizen means exercising your right to vote.
Right.
Being a good citizen also thinks about being a good Christian citizen, also thinks about others, and also thinks about how they can use their vote to have an impact to help others live a full life, live a complete life, a whole life. And so yeah, it's new now. It's these young pastors that are really vocal about making sure that we get out to vote, having voter drives at churches and things like that. Like we never ever had a voter registration drive at my church.
First of all, did we ever know what that was?
Right. Right.
Honestly, no one. I know for sure that was something that I was not aware of at all in my church. There, as a matter of fact, election would come and election would go, but there would be no discussions, no anything about anything. The only time that I felt like we heard anything political or anything that was, I would say political, was when it definitely, what's the word I'm looking for, when it came to our religious liberty.
Right.
when it came to us being able to keep the Sabbath day holy, that's when you kind of would hear, about anything about government and all that stuff, but it would never be anything outside of that.
I tell you, one person we knew about, well, I always heard about, that was the Pope. Every time the Pope did something, or every time there was a new Pope.
But that was always never America, right? That was always outside of that.
Right.
So I think that awareness never came to me until, I don't even think me turning 18, I became more aware of my right to vote, of being empowered in that way. I think maybe a little bit later, really allowed me. I mean, year since turning 18, I've definitely voted. But even talking about like the um, local races that happens even before the presidential, which is kind of like the big thing, but even awareness of those things and even being taught about how to vote and how to use your voice in those elections that may seem small, but they're really not, because I feel like those little what sometimes we deem as little are the ones that are more impactful, because those are the people that are representing our county or representing where we are, and it impacts us more. Like the presidential the presidential race is more like an overarching kind of thing, but being aware of all things voting, all things, all how that works never was introduced via church.
Yeah, because I think like Anderson brought up, we use that text. What is it? Be in the world, but not of it. And
Right.
voting is worldly. It just goes to show like how myopic and self-absorbed Christianity can be. Not just Adventism, but Christianity can be. That is just about me, me, me. My faith, my salvation. Very not very centered on like the world and helping others and how we can use our power to lift others, but it's just really centered on and then particularly this is Adventist, like people are going to kill us, people are going to persecute us, people are going to come after us. The Roman Catholic Church is watching us, and I'm like, all right, they're not watching you. And all this other stuff, so don't worry about that. But it's really now, I think I love what I'm seeing with like how we're kind of coming out of that.
I think we're being forced to come out
Yeah,
of
we're
that.
being forced to come out of that. I think that the leadership, world leadership of the church is still in that mindset, because when you look at most of them, they're at they're still in probably, they're in the 60s or whatever. That I think the world leadership is still on that me, 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 me. But I think there's something happening, swelling up within the churches and within the members, that it's not about me, me, me. It's about we. And it's more, more not inclusive, but more of a outward look in regard to what we should be doing for not just our brothers and sisters, but for our earth too, like
Mhm.
climate change and all those different things.
Yeah, we kind of turn a blind eye to that. So Anderson, you're right. This comment right here. I wish we were as Adventists.
Oh,
This is what I'm most familiar with. Um, being Adventist, I wish the way that we were so political when it was time to vote in a president or even for nominations in our local churches. Like I wish with the same passion, the same sometimes anger that we would use when it comes to what really matters.
right. And our politics be mad corny.
And
Like,
so
yeah,
inclusive and
it be
insulated.
it be mad corny. It's mad antiquated. The like the whole nomination process, the whole voter name up, like seriously, we still have a process that's like from the early 1900s, and people get really, really, they get really bloodthirsty and crazy. It's almost like how elections are right now in America. That's how it's always been in the church.
But it's crazy how they pattern themselves to that, but they never, it's either this or not that. You know what I mean? Like it never reflects like what's truly happening in our community or our world, right? To say like, okay, like even yeah, I don't even want to go into that part where we talk
Yeah.
about like even how you could tell how antiquated and how kind of not even, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to have two candidates that you don't know, that you have not vetted, that you don't even know their plans, right? What their plans are, but we vote them based off of what? Nothing, right? But you could just tell like it's so disconnected. But I don't want to go there. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to go there. But it's just interesting that is what we decide to focus on, opposed to like what's really happening in our world
Yeah.
and how people are being impacted.
Yeah. Christianity, Adventism, look, I always say, man, we can justify whatever we want to do, right? Like so, it, because because we can make the Bible say basically anything we want it to say. So we'll find a way to justify our political process and nullify the the country's political process. Like so, we will justify in our brains that it is okay to vote and to be political every 4 years or every 2 years in our church. And that same brain will say, I'm not going to vote in this election because God is in control.
Mercy.
It's crazy how that same brain,
Ouch.
it's crazy to me how that same brain can't
Ouch.
say, I'm not voting for my conference president because God
Ouch.
is in control. Right?
Wow.
So it's like you literally can make your brain say what you want to say and make the Bible say whatever you want it to say to justify what you want to do.
Wow, Jamie. You just said a whole word. Because that is so true.
Yeah, it's the same brain. The same brain will work one way here and it'll work differently.
But we'll
somewhere
say
else.
God is in control, but we are usurping. We are what are they like? We are behind the scenes, like
right,
politicking and politricking and trying to
the same thing they do with American politics.
That is
with
so
lobbying
interesting.
and all
That's
that
so
other stuff.
interesting.
But you know, it is what it is. And like you said, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because it's a waste of energy and waste of time. But I think the core message is, let's do our duty as citizens, and also think about like our. I think also too, it's important to think about our family members and friends who aren't citizens, who are undocumented, who are here and can't vote, but then you can use your vote to help them get a pathway to citizenship and so that they can be here as well. So I think voting is not just thinking about ourselves.
Yes.
Voting is thinking about those that are in prison, those that our children, our family members who are not citizens, and all of those things should be counted in when we think about how and when we should vote.
Because it's important.
It's very important.
It is very important. And sometimes I don't know when people do say, when I do see or hear people saying that my vote does not count.
Yeah, taxes count though. Shoot, you don't even get to decide about that rate. Like, but you know, choose who you want to govern you. That's what I say. And then I'm also too like, I think like people who don't vote shouldn't complain about what's happening in the country, or like that's my opinion. And then somebody might disagree, but I'm like, yo, it's almost like there's a pot of money that everybody put money into, and then you ain't put no money in it, but you complaining about how they spending the money.
Yeah.
Like it ain't, no, you ain't put no money in there. Keep your mouth shut. If you put your money in, then you can have something to say. But you know, I'm just praying that man, I'm just praying. I don't even know what to say. I think I'm still scarred from the 2020 election.
Was it 2020?
It was 2020 when Trump became president.
That was 2020? Oh.
No, he became
I was like, it
2016? Yeah.
Yes, 2016.
2016.
Yes, we are very much so scarred. And again, I think a lot of us, let me just say me. I ain't saying a lot. I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone, but I think me, I'm just, again, almost like in disbelief that this is actually something that is happening in our country, in America. And you and I have the talks, not debates, but Jamie and I talk often about what's happening, how we potentially got here, and just thinking about like America, it has been like the land of the free, the home of the brave, and we kind of champion this, like we are together, we are stronger together than not. And now all of a sudden it just kind of you see like a very, very hard divide in our country. And so it's kind of scary. But then, Jamie often says like, this is pretty much I think you said something like, this is like the the foundation of how America was built, like in this kind of same theme of
It is
hate.
what it is, man. It's hate. It's a new country, and it's just that I think the advent of Trump is just like emboldened and empowered them to be even more racist, more vocal about their racism. Like even within the Adventist church, there are, forgot the pastor's name, but there is a pastor. Who is like, he still uses the word woke. He's anti woke. I think he's a prominent figure too, and he's like really going after, really wants conferences to start coming down on woke agenda within the Adventist church. There's websites like Fulcrum 7, that are out there. So it's not just, it almost like it peeled back, I think, what we knew or what we had an idea of, but now it's like really in front of our faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, Courtney Ray, Danny Shelton. I was reminding somebody 4 years ago, that man Danny Shelton wrote a love letter basically to Donald Trump after he lost, and and he's married, and Danny Shelton's married to a sister. Lord, that same brain, right? It's the same. This is crazy. This brain, this same brain, and Courtney's a neurologist. I think Courtney's a neurologist. Or what do you do, Courtney? You do something with the brain, but nevertheless, that same brain can talk about showing honor and love to your neighbor, but can go in the ballot box and vote for somebody who calls our neighbors rapists, drug addicts, and violent criminals,
murderers.
Like it's an interesting how that brain. Oh yeah, neuropsychologist. It's interesting how that brain, the Christian brain, can move and operate in the same breath. Will get up and talk about love and anti-bullying and respect for one another, but will go and support a man who promotes, just vile rhetoric that comes from his mouth, talking about Liz Cheney should be put before a firing range with machine guns and kill. Like this same, like I don't understand it, and then I don't understand the black men out there who don't want to vote for a black woman. Like that right there messes me up, because I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm sure 90% of them black men that don't want to vote for a black woman was raised by a black woman.
My God.
When daddy abandoned them, it was a black woman that was taking care of them, working 2 jobs, making sure they went to church, making sure they have all that they have, and they're trying to say that a black woman can't lead. When a black woman has been leading your life for your whole life, it just doesn't make sense to me. And so, Courtney, you are the neuropsychologist. You can probably explain the brain better than me. But in a nutshell, vote. You got Tuesday. You should have done it already, but you got Tuesday to go do it.
Yeah, we just hope that we just hope and pray that it is I feel like it is we're almost on it just feels so tense in our country, so tense. And I'm going to try my best not to stay up and look and wait, because I'm really trying to not be anxious about this thing, because I understand that it is a very tight race according to what they're saying, but I just think about our kids and the impact that it would have on them, on us, but more on them. That's what I think about. I don't know if everyone else is thinking about that. I think some people are thinking about self-interest for today, for now. But when we think about our kids and the future of the world that we want them to live in, and I think as Adventists, it's kind of hard to talk through stuff like that, because I think sometimes we've been taught to be so heavenly minded that it's almost like we have no earthly good, in terms of like there seems to be there's no synergy between about what it is that we've learned as Adventists versus what it is like the reality of what we're experiencing in this world. And sometimes there's like a disconnect of sorts, where we're like, well, the Lord is coming soon, so we don't have to worry about this thing right now, but I'm currently living in it.
Yeah.
And no, it's a different thing if we knew the time, the date, the year that Jesus was coming back, for us to be able to say, okay, up until this time, we can kind of do our part, do our due diligence. But we don't have that, right? I'm sure the people that were living in, I don't know how long, with this Jesus is coming soon, let's just not do anything, let's just kind of, play it safe. I feel it as though like we really have to think about our kids and the world that we want them to live in if Jesus does not return then.
Right. So to Courtney's point, we ain't gonna know when we wake up Wednesday morning. It's gonna take a while. Particularly, I think Georgia's votes are gonna come in probably the last because they decided to hand count all the ballots. Okay. But then but to your point, that part, to your point, what you were just saying, that part with our church and voting. I think the forefathers or the founding members of this church, I truly believe, and even I think the church that we grew up in when we were teenagers, I don't think they factored in that we would be on this earth this long. Yeah. I think they, they thought like we were, Y2K or something, like we wouldn't be around. So, these weren't important. These weren't important issues for us as a denomination. So like you see like the AMEs, the Baptists, they were very rooted in the movement, right? Very rooted in civil rights and all of that kind of stuff. Versus us, we always live, and to this day, we still live with a last day like mentality that this is going to end very soon. So don't waste your energy focusing on what's happening in the world. Focus your energy on the return of Jesus, getting many people baptized because his coming is around the corner. Like our name explains who we are. We are Seventh-day Adventists. And because we're Seventh-day Adventists, we are waiting for the advent of Jesus Christ. So everything we do is centered around that. So it's obvious that voting, it's obvious that all these different things from a imperialistic European perspective of the scriptures makes sense. But when you're Black,
it's different. That thing takes on a whole different kind of connotation because it's like two different worlds, literally.
Right. When you're Black and you are being systematically oppressed and marginalized, you don't have time to just think about, you look forward to heaven, but you also need to think about your life here on earth, and you got to fight for your rights, right? Versus if you can have a cush life here and you can have, all the amenities in your community that you need to live a whole life and life abundantly. You don't got to worry about violence. You don't got to worry about, things. Your schools, your hospitals are all top of the grade. I think you can have the luxury of saying like, when heaven comes, right? Or I don't have to vote. I know that we can keep our things the way they are. But for us, we need people in office to make sure that certain things are the way they are so that we can continue to live, because we got a lot more that are against us than that is going against us than is us.
Yes. I think two different experiences. I think we're kind of like moving slow. It was a little choppy. All right, go ahead. You want to read what?
The notion of Jesus coming, so play it safe, is not historical evidence. Joseph Bates was so sure Jesus was coming, he was determined to desegregate public transportation. Kevin Burton was demonstrated that we're told had been no abolitionism without Adventist pioneers and Millerism. It's right. But there was a shift, according to J.A., like in 1916 or 1915, there was a shift within the thinking and the processing of this church and to where it is now. that something happened around that time. The notion of play is a 20th century invention. It was created by Adventism out of social issues, which at the start of the 20th century would have been Black issues of civil injustice. There you go, Rourke. That's my man.
Coming through with the
Rourke.
with the details.
Rourke is a scholar, so let's not.
That's amazing.
Right.
I know that. That's pretty amazing. We probably should have invited you on, honestly, because I think what you're adding, the depth of knowledge and wisdom that you're adding to this conversation is amazing.
Yeah.
And it looks like we went off. Yeah, it's blurry.
Yeah.
All right. Not sure what is happening to you. Want to? It's still doing that.
Yeah, I can't do nothing. I don't know what to do. Yeah, I think it started slowing down when we plugged in. I think
Is it charging? Oh, it says power saver.
no, I think we need to end.
We definitely are still being recorded.